Hi, I'm Casey Hart, and welcome to Ontology Explained, where I cover topics on philosophy and artificial intelligence. This is a special video. In fact, this was supposed to be the first video for this channel that I started about a year ago. And you might have noticed that I've got other videos in this feed, and the reason it took so long to get this one out is a bit embarrassing. But it's just you and I here, so I'll go ahead and say it. I don't know what artificial intelligence is. And that's pretty embarrassing. I don't think other people do really either. And that was kind of the point of this channel, that I could sort of unpack some philosophical issues around artificial intelligence, talk about some really practical issues for building ontologies, and we could all get smarter and I get clearer on my thinking. And what better place to start than what is AI? What is artificial intelligence? So when I first got this microphone and was telling my friends and family, all right, I'm excited, I'm going to start this YouTube channel, that was the target. That was the first place to go. And I just couldn't get my grasp on a really solid definition. And this worries me. Now, you might be not that surprised. Look, there are lots of stupid people on the internet. Why shouldn't you? Maybe you just found another one, right? There are plenty of people who don't know what AI is, and I might just be one of those fools. But I think I have reason to expect that I'm well situated to come up with a definition. So first off, I've spent the better part of the last decade working in ontology, building what just about everybody will consider to be AI or adjacent to AI. I'm in the field, right? And second, my academic background is in analytic philosophy, which, if we love anything in analytic philosophy, we love sets of necessary and sufficient conditions. We want a definition first and foremost to ensure that what we're talking about is meaningful. And to be clear, when I say I don't know what artificial intelligence is, I don't mean I don't have the foggiest idea. I do get it, right? I know some things that are clearly at the center of the term. So when people talk about AI, we have things in mind, right? We think about the Terminator. We think about Stockfish or Google's DeepMind, or we think of IBM's Watson coming up with answers to the questions on Jeopardy. We think about what algorithms are operating behind ChatGPT, what's running on many of your phones right now, all of these products that are powered by AI, right? So I get it. Those things seem like artificial intelligence. At least they get branded with the AI term. And I can come across plenty of different definitions, so I didn't just reach out for definitions and find nothing. In fact, there are 4 main ones that I'll just list here, and in some upcoming videos, I want to dive into each of these in turn and talk about why I don't find it very satisfying. But the 4 definitions are: first, a deception definition. This is in line with the Turing test, but can an artificial thing trick us into thinking that it's human? And if it can do that trick, then it's AI. The second case is a functional one. Artificial intelligence are things that humans otherwise would need to do, things that we would require human intelligence, but now we have a machine or some non-human doing that thing. The third definition, and this one's broader, is building a non-biological animal. Or if we want to be more specific, maybe just it's the mental aspect and it's building an artificial mind. Right? I'm always leery of definitions that put artificial or intelligence on both sides of the definition bar, but okay. And you can see maybe now that 3 is a little more broad than both 1 and 2. It might entail both 1 and 2. And then the fourth set of definitions is the catch-all. These are the spectrum definitions. So they say something like artificial intelligence is somewhere between narrow and broad, or weak and strong, something that on one end we have AGI, and then we can identify which things are artificial intelligence, which things satisfy that constraint by, if we can situate them on that spectrum, then they're AI to some more or lesser degree. Another distinction that I should make here is the difference between defining artificial intelligence as a field or an endeavor versus whether a particular thing is artificial intelligence. So it might be easier for us to say that in artificial intelligence, we're trying to build non-biological animals, or we're trying to construct thinking machines. And it's another thing to say whether this, like, is this AI? Does it have AI in it? Is there a particular thing? I want to hit both of those in the coming videos, but they are slightly different. One other place that we can go here for some inspiration is to think about the demarcation problem in the philosophy of science. So for the longest time, we accepted, and we still do, there's this thing called science. It's great. We like it. We want more of it. But there are some things that are pseudosciences. They sit at the boundaries or maybe way across that boundary, right? So something like phrenology and trying to determine psychological traits based on head shape, that's junk. Or reading tea leaves, maybe we want to say that's junk. Or shaking a magic 8-ball, that's not real science. Okay, great. But if you want to make that claim that some things are clearly science and other things aren't science, then we might want to have a demarcation line that splits between the two. What exactly are the necessary and sufficient conditions for something to be science, such that shaking the magic 8-ball violates that, doesn't meet that definition, but something like modern day physics does meet those definitions? We can have the same thing applied in artificial intelligence. If we want to know what AI is, we need to be able to distinguish AI from pseudo AI, that junk AI. Why does it matter that we don't have a clear grasp on what artificial intelligence is? If indeed I'm right that the rest of us don't have a clear grasp on it either. And that we can separate into a bunch of different reasons. I'll just try and list them out here and expound on each one in turn a little bit. So the first is that unclarity is generally bad. And again, maybe this goes back to my analytic philosophy training, but when we talk about things, we ought to know what we are talking about. And if it doesn't make you at least a little bit queasy, if we're talking about artificial intelligence and I can't really define what that term is, then I don't really know what else to tell you. You should want to have a firm grasp on the concepts at hand before we go make use of them. The second issue is making use of the concept of artificial intelligence, and the stakes are really high and they're very tangible. AI is prevalent today, right? In the examples that I listed earlier, it's in your phone, it's powering things in your computer, it might be powering things in the video software that I'm using to record this video. Major companies are using it to scour over the intellectual property on the web in order to generate things that show up in ChatGPT. I expect that just about all of you have some intersection at work with how, whether it's specifically LLMs or just AI more broadly construed, are changing the way that you work. Maybe your boss wants you to incorporate some more artificial intelligence in order to make you more efficient. Maybe you're worried that artificial intelligence is going to take your job. How are we going to handle this? Well, if we first don't know what AI is, it's going to be a little harder. What questions are we actually asking? Artificial intelligence is going to be more frequently used in military operations, and we have to grapple with the ethics of what are we going to do when we have smart missiles that are powered by AI? What are we going to do when our intelligence comes through AI filtered sources? And artificial intelligence is driving public policy. So the EU has the Artificial Intelligence Act, and that act has whereas clause after whereas clause about how we need to have a trusted, regulated, and safe artificial intelligence. And you might be asking yourself, what do they mean by that? What is artificial intelligence? And fortunately, they have a definition. AI system means a machine-based system that's designed to operate with varying levels of autonomy and that may exhibit adaptiveness after deployment, and that, for explicit or implicit objectives, infers from the input it receives how to generate outputs such as predictions, content, recommendations, or decisions that can influence physical or virtual environments. Is it clear to you now? I gotta tell you, I've read that definition several times and I still don't really know what it's talking about. It seems like it's sort of a conglomeration of some of the 4 definitions that I mentioned earlier in this video. I don't know how a deadbolt doesn't just satisfy that, but that's for another video. Right now, let's just say there are multiple definitions out there, and this is driving public policy. And something that drives public policy like that, it behooves us to make sure that we've got a firm grip on what we're talking about. The next reason that this matters is because of what it does to the dissemination of information, how people distribute it, and how people consume it. When AI is sort of a mystical, difficult to nail down concept, it breeds gatekeepers and it disempowers the quote unquote normal people. And we can see this with how people learn more about AI and the cult of personality that goes around some of the leaders of the biggest and most important companies. And this is a problem not just because we shouldn't have specific gatekeepers. In some sense, I'm torn on this because we should value expertise. And oftentimes, the people who are getting paid the most or who are elite in their field can be turned to and can give us some of the best guidance on how to understand things. If we want to understand what I should think about sort of geological history, I want to go find the most experienced geologist on the planet. But in artificial intelligence, too often the people who are telling us what AI is and what it can do are the people who stand to and have profited the most from people investing in it and government regulation for it. I have a real worry that the people who are telling us what AI is and can do are the ones who are trying to get their next investment and who are trying to get the government to build a moat around the things that they've already built to protect themselves. And along those lines, the people who are giving us really rosy predictions about how important AI is and how soon we'll have an excess of resources due to the sheer power and goodness of artificial intelligence, those promises aren't going to come to fruition. And I'm worried that it's going to lead to the next AI winter. When people get very disappointed by overpromises, then they will underappreciate the value that actually is there. Okay, in the coming videos, we're going to dive into each of those definitions, at least one video per 4 definitions, in more depth. I'm going to talk about why I find them wanting. But I want you to leave this talk with a moral. AI is not magic, and if you found yourself sort of sucked into the narrative of gatekeeper versus disempowered normal person because AI is complicated and magic and you can't understand it, that's wrong. Dash that view of the world, dash that model of understanding. Artificial intelligence is complicated, it's a difficult field, but normal people, and really, I don't think I have any normal listeners, you guys are all extraordinary, you can grasp it and you can understand it. Now, maybe you don't understand every single detail of the technology and how it's laid out, but let's take a metaphor and let's think about cars, right? I understand what engines are doing at an abstract level. If you gave me a bunch of tools and told me to repair a car engine, I'm not going to be able to do it. If you told me to build one from scratch, I'm certainly not able to do it. But I can understand what's going on a high level, right? It's converting energy from one form to another. It's the thing that allows me to take, whether that's gasoline or whether that's electricity, and turn that energy into something that's powering the wheels and driving the vehicle, right? That's not incredibly complicated at a high level, even if the things that are going on under the hood are more complicated. Artificial intelligence is going to be like that. These technologies are really complex under the hood. The algorithms are such that very few people understand what some of the more complicated ones are doing, but that shouldn't change the fact that we can understand what's going on at a high level, which is that in most cases, we have some information, we have some patterns, and we're able to run machines over these patterns and then generate outputs. As we get more nuanced in how we look at the underlying mechanisms, maybe we'll get out of your depth at some point. We'll get out of my depth at some point. But if you find yourself looking to some guru who tells you, I know what AI is, artificial intelligence is going to lead to the end of the world, or is going to lead to abundance that we won't even know what to do with. And by the way, I'm going to profit a lot from whichever interpretation that you take. Be skeptical. Sometimes the emperor has no clothes, and we should be able to call them on it. All right. I hope you enjoyed this video. I still don't feel great about it because I still don't really know what artificial intelligence is, but I hope the journey that I go on in the coming videos will at the very least, help us all be a little bit more reflective about what AI is. And maybe we'll luck out and we'll light on it. We'll find the exact definition. And that would be pretty exciting too. I'm rooting for that one. Until next time, have a fabulous day.